days what I have discovered.
Okay, so hello, Facebook.
There we go. Technology is working again.
So exciting. All right.
And here we go.
Oh, give me 1 second. I just want to put so we're 21 minutes and then 27. Okay, here we go. Welcome to Cabomil News and Community Update in English. This is Korey Riggs along with Claudia Velo, and you're listening on October 10th, Sunday at 6 p.m. Can you believe it? And if you're watching us on Facebook Live, Cabomil News, and we're recording this a couple days earlier, so you can be checking this show out. We have a good show today. We have Isabelle with us again, our health guru. But before we get to Isabelle, any news, Claudia, that everyone should know about?
Yes, the big news, guess what? We are in the new normal, as they call it, which means green, which means level 1, which means all businesses are open, including bars, casinos, event halls. You can rent a place to have a big party, but face masks are still needed. And I know, Korey, you hate them, but those the mats that you have to put at the entrance of the businesses, they're still going to be there. Yeah.
Why?
I don't know, but it's in the list of the things that are required for businesses to be open. And Korey, which is the part of the health authorities that is in charge of prevention of health, sanitary and health risks, is going to be patrolling and surveying and conducting random inspections at businesses to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. But the good news is that it's level 1, 80% occupancy, and that is what is considered the new normal. So yeah, that's that. That's what happened.
So can I just ask a question? I don't know if you have the answer to this question, Claudia.
Yeah, ask it. We can
But is there a level below this where you take the face mask off and you get, I mean, I don't understand. This
is the new normal according to Mexico's health alert system. And also, I mean, for Los Cabos is great because there's there were 42 active cases reported last Thursday throughout the municipality, and 1 person in the hospital, and it wasn't intubated, and that patient was not intubated. So that's really good news. But no, for now, and while in the world, COVID is still called a pandemic, or is still perceived as a pandemic, this is the way life is. Schools are back, but only at this point, only 60% of schools really have students, and not all students are back in classes in the classroom. There's several schools that will return to class come November 3rd. So it's a gradual return to what is, like I said at the beginning, called the new normal. But for Mexico, that means you still have to wear a face mask. They will still take your temperature. They will still offer you sanitizing gel. And yes, the mats. Korey.
I mean, anyway, we're going to talk more about this on our podcast, Chats from the Outside, which you guys should go check out on Cabo Pulse, because anyway, we'll talk more about that. But I am so happy we're back to level 1. What I would love to talk to somebody that can explain why the mats. I just want someone to come on and explain it, because really that makes no sense. And as human beings, things need to make sense. They just really do. And when you're just doing something to be arbitrary with a rule, I don't agree with it. I don't comply. It's ridiculous. And everyone needs to understand why. They make no sense. They were told they make no sense from the WHO that this wasn't a virus that came from any surfaces, please, someone do something that's logical. And whoever that authority is, please do it. And I'd love to talk with you. If there's a reason for it, just let us know. Anyway, that's my commentary. We'll talk more about it on our podcast. But I am happy we're back at level 1. It's nice to see Cabo full. It's nice that the weather is getting nice again. And I can't wait to see Wales. Wales should be coming soon.
Actually, I know a couple of people who are staying on the Pacific at a resort on the Pacific, and they say they saw whales. Maybe these were a couple of strays leading the pack. I don't know. I know it's super early for it to be whale season, but they are certain that they saw whales. I don't know. Other good news, September, the numbers for September in Los Cabos, the occupancy levels and the number of tourists that arrived higher than those registered in 2019, pre-pandemic. So great recovery, and the forecast for this high season is huge. Bisbee's is going to have a purse of over $6 million.
Wow.
Because as you may remember, there was no winner last year. And so they combined those purses, more than 120 teams registered. It's going to be a big high season for Los Cabos. And that, of course, is good news for everybody. So
very exciting. Very exciting. All right. Well, let's move on to, unless you have something else, Claudia, let's bring Isabelle on.
No, everything else. I mean, the tourism industry is just very optimistic. The Sabre Awards were issued to Los Cabos as the best tourist destination in proactive management of the pandemic and in communicating how things were being managed here, which of course led to the quick recovery of the tourism industry, which we all know is the main driver for our economy in the area. So all good news. That's all the news I have.
Very, very good. Thank you, Claudia. And we have Isabelle Gagnon with us.
Yay!
Isabelle, please, you're a functional medicine coach. I don't know. I always mess up your titles, but you're just our, I like to call it health guru.
She is.
We have her on once a month at least, sometimes more, because this is the best way to fight a pandemic is to get your immune system really strong. And Isabelle always gives us the way to do that. So Isabelle, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, beautiful people. Thank you again for the opportunity to come. And I wouldn't call myself a guru. I call myself a health passionate or health advocate. But before we get into today's theme, which is diet, and not in the way you expect it, I just want to give a tip to your parents that are listening about kids and mask at school, because it's very important. I have one of my clients that told me that her little girl had fever and she had sinus issues, and we're concerned that if it was or not, and had the test and it wasn't. And the doctor told her that the fever going for kids right now, little sinus nose, is very strong, and it's got nothing to do with COVID. And I told her that the challenge with little kids going to school when it's hard with masks, it's very hard for them to breathe, and they might be susceptible to develop things like little infections or sinus issues. So here are some tips, because right now, even though I tend to agree with you, Korey, this is the rules right now. So we need to look at how can we help the kids. So before you put your kids' mask on, I suggest things like putting a drop of Feve essential oil, but like at least half an hour or so before you put it on, so that it has a time to evaporate. Feve essential oil, which is very ancient type of oil that has clove and cinnamon and so on, is both antibacterial, so it's going to help to keep that mask clean. And the other property is it boosts immunity. It's the perfect type of oil. It's going to smell good for them as well, hopefully. And maybe at night in the room, diffuse that oil if you have a diffuser, and in your house. It's very, very, very important, as long as we need to have masks on, to make sure that we have our health. sinuses health and lung health looked after. It's the yin to the yang. It's critically important. So that's my tip. Sorry. That's my tip on mask for kids and for adults alike. It works for everybody.
Great tip, Isabel. And just for people who are not into essential oils, currently Thieves is a proprietary brand of one particular line of essential oils. People can find varying combinations of essential oils that are considered Thieves because, as Isabel said, it's ancient. It dates back to when the Black Plague kind of decimated all of Europe way back then. But if people are into the opposite brand, which is only 3 letters, it's On Guard. It's the equivalent. So
Yes.
Thieves or On Guard are good, easily available. And if you want to research, just go online and look for Thieves formula, and you will get the basics of the essential oils that you can combine to make your own Thieves.
Thank you for complete my comments. One more thing, and actually I heard that from a brilliant scientist yesterday in one of my many studies, is we need to make sure also that our sinuses and everything is clear, because that's really helps. And saline water. So you want to make sure that you also, at the end of the day, if you're congestion, use saline water to clean your sinuses. And for me, the best saline water is to immerse your head in the sea here. We're very lucky to have a body of water that has the best mineral content in the world. So that's also a very healthy habit to have. That concludes my tips on mask and sinus and lung health.
I have no comment. Go ahead.
Claudia, so you asked me, so you want to maybe ask, first of all, you asked me to talk about diet. So what was your idea to ask about this?
Well, everybody, as people are starting to go back out and realizing that during the pandemic, a lot of us weren't maybe as active as we might have wanted. And now that here we are kind of like mingling with others, we want to look our best. And most people turn to dieting. And there are so many different diets out there right now. And not all diets are made equal. And not all diets work the same way for everybody. So it is very common to follow the trend. And in your expertise, because that's what you are, an expert in making sure that people are doing what is best for them, for their well-being, what are your recommendations on how to go about deciding which is the best diet? And so basically tell us, how do these diets work? Intermittent fasting versus keto versus paleo versus some that are just like eat a whole bunch of fat and no carbs and protein. So just kind of like tell us about that, because there's so many ways. And I know, Korey, you've done serious hardcore fasting and felt great while doing that. But now you've changed your diet and seem to also feel great. So kind of like start that conversation.
Well, it's interesting because I was into intermittent fasting, and I actually did Ramadan, which we talked about many times in this program. And I did pretty well. I lost some weight, but I didn't lose a lot of fat. So my fat percentage was still about the same. So I saw my functional medicine doctor in the US last time in August. And he did my body fat, he did everything. And I also, as you remember, I had a little bit of a high blood pressure thing going on. And he said, Korey, if you drop 5% body fat and it'll probably be equivalent to this many pounds, that's going to go away. And a lot of things, you're going to feel so much better. And he says, what you need to do is you need to eat frequently, every 3 hours, keep the insulin levels the same. And so I came back and I actually got a diet from a doctor in Mexico City who looked at my blood. He was also a functional medicine doctor. That's what I'm following now. And it's amazing. In the last 2 weeks, I've lost 2% of body fat. I've lost 4 kilos. But it's not, I don't even feel like it's a diet because I'm eating I'm eating things that I like. I'm eating lots of protein. I'm eating all greens. It's greens and protein basically is what I'm eating. And in between my meals, I'm having cucumber. And so that's my intermittent meals in between. So every 3 hours. But anyway, I'm going to let Isabelle explain why this is working so well compared to maybe fasting that I was doing before. Isabelle?
Well, it's never just one thing, but what you're talking about is a prime example of individualization. It's now the era of personalized medicine, and we all have unique gene makeup with pre-existing conditions. So no diet, like Claudia says, works for everybody. But the buzzword actually is metabolic flexibility, which in your case, this particular diet that you're on, and you saw the right people, because functional medicine people look at root causes and make sure that they give you something that will work specifically for you. So what does metabolic flexibility is, and this is the buzzword. I'm going to talk for 2 specific books that came out on the latest diet. It's not diet trends. It's really about the science advancing and telling us how to go about to lose weight. And it's about really balancing our metabolic health. What does that mean? Metabolic flexibility is when you're able to burn body fat, to use fat as fuel, which Korey in his example wasn't using. He was most likely in a stalling position and using more sugar as fuel as opposed to fat. That's why he wasn't able to lose body fat, which was probably because there was also some metabolic hormones that were out of balance. And what are metabolic hormones? There's basically your insulin, your cortisol, your testosterone, your growth hormones, your thyroid. These are all the things that are very important. And so I want to talk about Sarah Guthrie and her new book that came out that is 4 years in the making. And Sarah Guthrie is a PhD from Harvard and a scientist in hormone, she's a hormone specialist for women. And she took 4 years to develop this book because 4 years ago, she was on a diet with her husband, the keto diet. Her husband lost a pile of weight and she lost just a little bit. And she was so frustrated because she didn't understand how come she didn't lose as much weight as he did. So what happened is us women don't lose weight the same way as men on a keto. And what she realized is that basically the women, most of us women that diet in the same way of men, we often deregulate our hormones, which make us not able to lose weight. Because if you're not able to be metabolically flexible and using your fat as fuel, and you're only using your sugar as fuel, you're not going to lose weight. It is very frustrating. So she has a quote that I really like, which she says, your food regulates your hormones, not the other way around. So to try to reduce calories to manage your weight is a course for failure. So calorie matters, but hormone matters more. So that's why it's very, very important to make sure that you are eating for your hormones first, which is what you're doing, Korey, right now without realizing it. So there's, interestingly enough, I had a message this morning that will confirm that through my social media. Here's what it says. I turned 50 this year, and that's a woman, and I feel like I can't lose the last 5 pounds of 2020. I eat clean and I exercise 6 days a week, but I can't lose. So that's why now the idea is to look, if you are a woman, is to make sure to look at how women lose weight on a keto diet. There's a different ratio that makes sure that you are able to eat in the way, first of all, to rebalance your hormones, that you're able to start to activate this metabolic health so that you're able to start to lose the weight. Does that make sense? Any questions on that before I go any further? Because that's very new for a lot of people.
Well, yes, because when women, I do have a question, and the question is, does this mean that it also changes as a woman as you age? Because obviously our hormones, as we are approaching menopause or go through menopause, change, and sometimes I sometimes feel like hormones give up. I mean, I know they're still there and we're still producing them, but it's definitely different from when you're a younger person. So definitely, as you're saying, not all diets are for everybody and you have to personalize it. So how do women go about finding how their hormones are working, where that balance is, and what is best for them?
And before you answer that, Isabelle, everyone's going to have to wait till after this break to hear that answer. So we'll be right back. Stay tuned with us and you will hear the answer to that very good question that Claudia just asked. We'll be right back.
That was a cliffhanger ending.
I love that. That was so good.
It's such a new area, and there's just so much to talk about. So I'm going to try to capsulize it in a way, because of sake of time, so that people understand. Yeah. But it's really a different way to look at it. It's really about, the dog's been wagging the tail for a very long time, and people are very frustrated. So it's now time for us to go about it the right way. So we're going to talk about that. And there's a common way to go about it that I'm going to talk about. The two books that are recent books about, there's one from a male specialist and one from a woman specialist, but they all come back to metabolic flexibility. So that's what's interesting.
And I think the key is, before we go back, is really, and I'm glad you're going to do that, is give people specific things to do, because sometimes this topic, it's like overwhelming and people go away from it like, okay, I'm more confused than I was before.
Yes.
So what is a way people can start? What is a step-by-step that people can do? Obviously and it's not the same for every woman, as we've talked about. And I think Claudia's question is so good, depending on age, and also everyone's body is different. So it's completely, there's a lot of different things.
And as we age, you're right, Claudia, hormones start to change. But what makes us deregulate very fast is our lifestyle. We have to come to terms that we are not, it's really about readjusting the lifestyle first. And you'd be surprised when you do that first, how hormones rebalance much faster than we think. We're giving too much importance to age. And again, I'm going to use my example. I'm 60. So I'm really sorry, to tell you that we have to stop using this as an excuse. It does change as we age. It is a reality. But how can we reset them with lifestyle before we think of anything going outside with any hacking modalities? Right. And so it's work, and in our modern age, we just don't like to have to think about making changes. We live in the world of abundance where we have too much. And it's hard to make these little change. I'm going to move because the sun is moving. So, it's really about, I'm going to give you some very small steps to go about it. It all comes to reset first. It all comes to resetting the body before we're able to start. And resetting means rebalancing, turning the fire off so we're able to start to lose and to calm the inflammation and feel better. I'm going to talk about things like that.
Okay, let's go back, because and still, if you just answered the question, you're going to answer it again, because we left people with a cliffhanger.
Yes.
So we'll remind people. All right, Claudia, you let us know when.
Here we go.
Welcome back to Cabomil News and Community Update in English with Korey Riggs and Claudia Velo. It is October 10th, and you are listening on Sunday evening to Cabomil 96.3 FM, or you're watching us on Facebook Live, which if you were, You got a lot of bonus material from Isabelle, but we left you with a cliffhanger. Claudia, can you restate that question?
Yes. How can women in particular go about figuring out what their metabolic situation is linked to hormones? Because as everybody knows, as women age and we approach or go through menopause, our hormones change. And how do we go about that?
Well, first of all, I gave everybody a mouthful about metabolic flexibility. And so now I'm going to just take this down to a very simple step. But first, what's interesting is 45% of women, first of all, here's the reason why women have a hard time to lose on keto. So 45% of women that were tested on the ketogenic diet have first menstrual irregularity, thyroid issues, high cortisol, issues with sleeping, even dehydration. All of this for women, because we're genetically, our makeup is very different than men, gets in the way of losing weight on a keto diet. 100% of us right now, after the year that we have left behind, well, we're not finished with this, have high cortisol. And high cortisol is directly connected to metabolic flexibility, our ability to lose weight. So that's very important to know that. Talking about when we age, the issue is age. I'm 63, so I like to use my example as we're using age too often as a reason that our hormones are out of balance. But the reality is 90% of the time is because we have lifestyle issues that get in the way of our hormones. I'm going to use a very specific example. That's one of many of the past year, one of my specific clients. She came to me after 8 months of losing a lot of weight on keto diet, which worked well. But then she had a backfire issue. She started to have gut issues. She started to gain another 5 pounds that she couldn't lose. She didn't feel good, and so on and so forth. So like anybody in the functional field, and those 2 books I'm going to talk about start with that 4-week reset, is we need to eliminate the triggers in our diet. That's the very first step for anybody and everybody that wants to lose weight. What does that mean? Doing a reset to remove the triggers. We have to get off the foods that we know that are issues, like sugar and gluten and dairy. But not only that, interestingly enough, we have to get off the food that we eat a lot all the time. So in the example of my client, like she was eating a lot of eggs. She had high cortisol because she's a very busy, successful businesswoman. We all have high cortisol, but along with the stress of a busy life, the coffee in the morning, coffee is good for the liver, but if you're stressed, it's going to rise your cortisol issues, which is going to make it very hard to lose weight. Just by removing coffee and getting off the eggs and another thing in her diet, over the course of 4 days only, the belly went down, the swelling went down, and she lost 4 pounds. So what happens is we are developing food intolerances. Now, that's very far from what you're expecting me to talk about, but this is one of the main issues about weight loss, is we're eating too much of the same thing combined with our stress that gets our hormones, the metabolic hormones, out of whack. And then we're trying to find diets, things outside of us to lose weight. Well, what needs to happen is us resetting our own system, our own metabolic rate that is out of balance. So we I always start everyone that comes to see me with a reset. And it's individual to everybody. So based on your symptoms, based on what you are eating. For example, I had another client that was pescatarian. So this particular client, there are different diets. In this case, this was a woman that was eating very healthy, was very fit, but again, that gut issues, that 5 pounds, and discovered through the reset to the elimination diet that she had developed a very high intolerance to tuna, to a point that it made her really sick. That was the trick for her.
Wow.
So again,
Wow.
before you look at any type of diet out there, if you have any gut issues, if you have any digestion issues, if you can't lose that 5 pounds, you need to reset your body with elimination. And if you look at the latest books by Sarah Guthrie, which I talked about, there's a new book called Intuitive Fasting by Dr. Will Cole. They're both talk about metabolic flexibility. These are 2 brand new books by brilliant functional medicine specialists, and they're talking about a 4-week program. And what is at the very beginning of the program? It's a reset. It's about eliminating what's firing up in the wrong way in our body, calming inflammation, and getting all of our elimination outlet working so we can start rebalancing hormones and losing weight, not the other way around. Any questions?
Isabelle, I have a question. You mentioned when you first started talking about these things that we need to eliminate, like sugar, gluten, these types of things. I think sugar is such an insidious thing because sugar, we know if we eat a chocolate bar, we're getting sugar, or if we eat a piece of cake. But I think that people don't realize if they're eating rice or they're eating bread, that it's also sugar. And I think that's part of the challenge is it turns into sugar in your body. Isn't that correct?
It is, but it's worse if you're metabolically inflexible, which means if your body is mainly using sugar as fuel. So what happened is it's like a fire. Just imagine that the sugar burning body is out of flexibility. So what happened is, like a fire, you need to always constantly put more wood to keep the fire going. In a sugar burning system, you always have to eat sugar, right, with bread, to get the energy up. But this is also recreating fire in your body by increasing inflammation. Suddenly your hormones are out of balance because you are burning the wrong fuel. But I'm going to answer your question in a different way, Korey. When you are metabolically flexible, which means that when you have calmed down inflammation, that with a very balanced way of eating, that you're now burning fat as fuel, and everything is pretty well in balance. You can eat sugar, you can eat carbs, you can eat rice, and it will not throw you off. That's what metabolic flexibility is being able to go from eating, some fat as fuel, but also sugar, and not throwing your hormones, your metabolic hormones off. And how you get to that balance is first by resetting your body, by doing an elimination diet. That's your first step. And it could be with what you're doing right now, which is obviously working for you, Korey. It could be by doing the hormone and keto diet by Sarah Guthrie. It could be by looking at Dr. Cole's intuitive fasting diet, which starts the same way. It's really about decreasing, like removing the triggers, rebalancing your metabolic hormones so that you can start to lose weight, and lose weight by using fat as fuel, first and foremost. So that's really the starting point. Does that make sense?
It does. Now I have a question. Are all bodies, is everybody susceptible and able to reset? Is this something that anybody can implement?
As I mentioned, we're all different with all pre-existing conditions and the genes we were given. So, it's more difficult for people that have a celiac issues, or have any autoimmune issues So for these people, they really have to be followed differently. But for the general population, because let's face it, and this is another quote in Sarah Guthrie's book that people might not like to hear, but the issue of the pandemic, we met the virus halfway. What does that mean? Is that the majority of the population, 80% of us, are not healthy. We're not healthy. We have at least one metabolic issues, whether it's high cortisol or having high blood pressure, being on the way to diabetes, having too much body fat. All of this makes us susceptible to depressed immunity and open to have more, serious symptoms when we have these things flowing or floating out there. So the answer is everybody can become in their own way better at metabolic health. And everybody needs to go about it in a specific ways, but it really all starts by resetting the body, by removing triggers. And so it's not just about removing gluten and dairy and sugar and rice, like you mentioned, Korey, but it's also about removing the food that makes you intolerant. And there's a very big difference between having allergies to certain food and food intolerance. And food intolerance is prevalent in 100% of people that come to my coaching, because we are a society that eat a lot of the same things all the time.
Yes, we are creatures of habit. And
yes. So when I asked you, and I was asked that question before, and I said yes, I answered yes, but it was no. How varied is your diet? And of course, Korey, you said, I now eat good food, like I'm on this diet, but it's not like I'm not eating very well, like any things that I don't like. I actually eat good food. So I would ask you, how varied do you think your diet is?
I think it's very varied because it changes every week. So what happens is he's sending me a diet. This first week, this is what you're going to eat in the morning, in the afternoon, and at night. And like this week, we added tomatoes to the greens. So that was able to add. And then last week, it was avocado. This week, there's no avocado. This week, there was some cheese. So it's very interesting what he's adding and taking away. I had grapefruit in the morning the first week. I can't have any fruits this week. So the thing I feel about diets in general, what I like about this diet is I could live this way. This is not something that I would, oh my gosh, I'm on a diet and then I'm off of it and it's going to be different. No, I like the way I feel. It's sustainable. I don't even want to call it a diet. It's really I'm eating to live, and I'm eating in a way that's sustainable. And I think that's also something that people get in trouble with, because when you go on a diet and you restrict things, you don't feel good about it because you're just trying to lose weight. Well, as soon as you're off of it, you're done, because you're just going to go back.
Yeah. Yes. What happened is what I'm hearing from what he's doing with you is actually that it's actually a reset. It's actually he's giving you food in a way to heal your body, to make you lose body fat instead of muscle mass, by healing and by rebalancing your hormones so that you're able to lose the body fat. And I would like to suggest that you're going to have a transition period, because what happened is you're right, it's not about diet. My idea of diet, and I've learned that throughout the years and with brilliant specialists, is the diet period is that 4 weeks to a month where you need to reset, when you need to eliminate what doesn't work, when you need to rebalance your hormone. It's different for everybody, but the principle is the same for everyone. Mm-hmm. Once you have removed triggers, realize what doesn't work for you, what doesn't serve you as well, when you get to the transition to a way of eating that works for you. And you're right, it's not about diet. It's about finding that perfect story of that perfect food that works for you. So then when you transition you are educated on what it is that serves you or not, and you're able to balance back and forth. And again, you're able eventually to eat the carbs that you were off for a while because you have rebalanced your metabolic health. That really comes down to that.
And the key too that I've noticed is eating at home. I mean, that's been a game changer, is just always preparing the food, which also makes you think about it because you're right in there preparing it. It's cleaner food. You're getting organics, you're getting those things. And you're not putting all the salt and all the things that you're going to get at a restaurant that you don't even know about, that's adding a lot of things you don't need and things that are probably intolerant. So people that eat out all the time too, it's very difficult to really control that. And that's what I've noticed too, is I've had to change that, having that food prepared at home. And the other key is alcohol was eliminated, which has been a huge game changer. And we had Ali on last week and we talked about this, is about eliminating alcohol. And that's been huge, because even if I would have a glass of wine at night, all of a sudden your night's done because you have the alcohol in your system. It's not like you can go do a yoga before bed. You don't feel like that. You're in a whole different mindset or body set. I don't even know how to say it, but so that's been interesting for me to eliminate the alcohol and eat at home.
Yes, and alcohol on a reset is number one. Even though as functional medicine professional, in a lot of resets, we don't tell people to get off alcohol. We suggest they do, and has to be a transition for some people, because if you're too stressed and you remove alcohol and it makes you more stressed, it's not going to work for you. So that's an interesting comment that I would make. But alcohol for sure. And the problem with alcohol when you're inflamed is one glass will just set you off in a wrong direction. As again, when you get to a place where you're really in a good place with your metabolic flexibility, you can get back to have a glass of wine if it works for you, 2 to 3 times a week, and it's not going to affect you. It's really about where your body is at. So it's interesting. I'm glad that you're talking about eating at home, because I was looking at one of Mark Heyman, Dr. Mark Heyman, which doesn't need an introduction. He's a famous functional medicine practitioner. He wrote in his page, "I cannot cure obesity and diabetes in my office. It is cured on the farm, in grocery stores, in the restaurant, in our kitchen, in schools, in workplaces, and in faith-based societies." So it is a fact that if people that eat at home are leaner and healthier and lose body weight or body fat faster. So if you are to go to restaurants, the biggest issue besides salt is the vegetable oils. And vegetable oils is actually toxic in all restaurants unless you ask for your food being cooked specifically, which you should if you have health issues, is the worst thing to have to create inflammation. They've discovered in people that have diabetes that vegetable oil is actually worse than sugar. And here's why. If you're eating excess sugar, your liver is going to burn it. You're going to burn it. Like if you do a workout or so on. You cannot burn excess saturated fat in vegetable oil from the liver. It's going to take a long time. And that's directly connected to inflammation. So if you want to do one small change, has a big impact, both at home or when you're asking for a meal in a restaurant, is get off vegetable oils. It is totally toxic and totally inflammation driven. So good oils is olive oil, and there's now olive oil that you can eat, that you can cook at a little bit higher heat. But olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil are all good oils, and the ghee, which is a clarified butter, are all good options to cook. So that's a very big difference. Is to eat at home makes a big difference. Also, there's been study on, if you want to talk specifically about losing weight, people that say, okay, but I want to lose weight, Isabelle. Okay, intermittent fasting actually works a lot in combination with the right way of eating. Why? Because our body needs a sufficient amount of hours to do its functions at optimal. And we don't need outside powders to detox, for example. Yes, there are some foods that helps our elimination, our natural detox system to work at optimal. So for example, we have two phases in the liver, phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 takes the food, liquidify it, and phase 2 needs certain foods to take that toxicity and move it out of our body, which means cruciferous and so on. So we need to leave the body enough time to do its job. And 12 hours is the minimum. And it's very easy to do this because if you don't eat, let's say after 8 at night and before 8 in the morning, you've done your 12 hours. So it's very easy. But coming back to, I want to lose weight. They've done a study on people that were both on 2,000 calories. And they had people that ate their calories earlier in the day and people that ate their 2,000 calories later in the day. And the people that lost the most, everything equal, are the people that ate their food earlier in the day. So if you're going to, if you want to lose weight, and intermittent fasting does work, it certainly simply means that we need to eat our food in the minimum 12 hours minimum. It's very important, is to eat more at breakfast time, a little bit less at lunchtime, and much lighter at night. This also helps us to sleep better. Because at night, and I've talked about that in our previous radio time, is that we have some functions at night to rebalance certain our hormones, but digesting is not a function at night. When we sleep, we need to reset our growth hormone, our testosterone, our melatonin. It's not a time to digest. So if you eat too much, too close to bedtime, you're interfering with all of these resetting of these hormones and also the detoxing of the brain and the body. So a good amount of time in between your last meal and sleep is how much?
2 hours?
2 hours minimum. 3 hours is optimal. So very, very important, which is the second reason why eating more earlier in the day helps us to lose more weight, because we're able to leave more time for our body to get rid of everything that it needs to do for us to function at optimal.
There
Does
you
that
go.
make sense?
Yeah.
Another thing that I want to talk about, some other things besides the reset, is what do you think is optimal at the end of the day? What do you think is the best known diet? Because we've gone through a lot of trends. You talked about trends, Claudia. Of course, we had the keto time, the paleo. We have omnivore, carnivore, pescatarian. We didn't even talk about vegetarian and vegan. But optimally, after all of that is said and done, what do you think is the best, most balanced diet for us for optimal health?
The Mediterranean diet.
Bingo! If I had a book, you would get a first copy. Yeah, it is. And actually, in Dr. Gothrie's book, her brand new book, she said when you transition after 4 weeks to your keto plan, is a modified Mediterranean diet. What does it mean modified? Again, like Korey talked about, it's modified in the way that works for your own body. You know, if you have any celiac issues, if you are, you don't do well with nightshades, things like that, you might need to have your tomato cooked as opposed to raw to remove what we call the anti-nutrients. But ultimately, when you look at the blue zones in the world, all of these pockets of population when people live 100 years and plus, and it's really about eating a good amount of plant-based, some good, very healthy fat, olive oils and avocado, meat on a side dish. If you're eating meat, know what your meat comes from, because we know that hormones and pesticides in meats is the issue. Fresh fish, a little wine if you're going to be into that, lots of teas, less coffee, even though coffee is good for you, not so much if you have high cortisol because it's going to fire off. So it's really about your need to transition. For me, diet, I'm going to say it again for everybody can hear me because I have gone through it through my years of trying diets and studying the best science up to now. It's really about starting with a reset and elimination and transitioning to a certain way of eating. I don't use diet anymore as a word, as a way of eating that will serve your metabolic health best.
Isabelle, you've given us so much to think about, and it's so great to have you on the show as always. And before we leave though, Claudia, you've been on a diet too. Look at you. You're like skinny. You look great. And I know Giancarlo also. What are you guys doing? Are you guys doing similar to what we're talking about?
Yeah, but see, you were already in that health and fitness thing before.
Mm-hmm.
And I really adopted a very sedentary lifestyle and Mexico is the largest consumer of Coca-Cola.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good drug. It's inexpensive. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel like you have energy. And basically it's a change away from a lot of processed foods and a lot of soft drinks and moving more towards a balanced, healthier lifestyle in the way that we eat. And it's intermittent fasting, basically cutting down on a lot of the carbs. And I stopped gluten, and I had mentioned this to you, Korey. I thought I was getting rheumatoid arthritis because my joints hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And I just figured it was something that was genetic, hereditary. And when I stopped gluten, guess what?
Went away.
No more joint aches. So that was
It's about the inflammation. You actually stop the inflammation.
Yeah.
It's amazing, the inflammation. And Isabelle, we're going to have you back soon. We want to talk more about inflammation, because I can tell you the cold plunges I'm doing every day is getting rid of my inflammation as well. There's just tons of things you can do. There's good biohacking out there. But we will be back next Sunday at 6 p.m. And you can listen to us there or watch us on Facebook Live at Cabomil News. And you want to check out this show because you are looking at three beautiful, skinny people. So check it out.
You don't know. We don't say skinny. We don't say skinny. We say lean
machines. Lean machines.
Yes. Lean burning machines.
We'll catch you next week. Everybody be safe out there and talk to you soon.
Catch you next time.
Thank you.
Let me take us off